We have a mission this Kartik to go through this Damodarastakam. So I'm trying to stay on track. I was thinking at the beginning, oh, we have so much time. You know, what are we going to do at the end? I was thinking we're going to be left with vacant spaces. And then I was planning to read, and I'm still planning to read, this beautiful Yamal Arjuna Mochanam, which is written by Jiva Goswami at the back of the book, which is a beautiful, complete pastime of the Dambanda Leela. And I was hoping to get to that. But now all of a sudden, it seemed like yesterday, we've only got like 14 or 15 days left. So everything seems to be crunching up. We've hit the halfway mark and we're coming down, sliding out of Kartik again. So I want to keep rolling with at least getting through the 8 verses here. So
12 days left.
11 days. 11 days. And we've got Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj and Srila Turikram Maharaj tomorrow. The next day we have Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So we have different not interruptions, but there'll be occasions for speaking different topics. But now we're on verse 5 today. You can read for yourselves the very profound commentary of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj on page 97 through maybe 5 pages here. You can see that. That's very enlightening. So now we've come to verse 5. And this is a remarkable verse because verse 4 was like a pivotal verse, we explained. We've come from describing the Leela in mantra upasana in the second verse, Rudantam Muhur. And then we've come into Itidrik Swalilavya, this Swarasiki upasana. And then we've come into Satyabrat Muni, rejecting even Navada Bhakti, rejecting Vaikuntha Dham, rejecting these places. So now the whole conception of Braja Prem is coming to light in the 4th verse. And now it's going to flourish in the 5th verse. The 5th verse, everything will really come to light because now the dynamic of increased mood and greed. Previously in the 4th verse, he wanted just to see the whole form of Balagopal. Now he only wants to see the beautiful smiling face of Balagopal. So it's an increase. So when we meditate on these verses, just by going through this the way we're going through it, and then when we sing the Astakam every day, then our appreciation and understanding of each verse, of course, is going to expand daily as we grasp more and more of the. But there's no end to it. I explained it before. It's like unlimited practically. Every single year, whatever you're hearing now, next year you're going to hear more. And the next year after that, you're going to hear more. And it just keeps on increasing and increasing. And it's amazing. It's not ordinary. It's not just like you hear the Astakam and then, you know, it's because it's an eternal Astakam. We've described this already. So idam te mokambojam avyakta nilai, ritam kuntala snigda rakshastra gopya, muhus kombitam bimba raktad haramme, manasya avrishtam, alam laksha labai. So the translation, O Deva, your lotus-like face, encircled by soft, blackish, blue, curly locks of hair that have a reddish glow, is repeatedly kissed by the gopi, Sri Yashoda. May your supremely charming lotus face, with lips like red bimba fruit, always remain manifest in my heart. I do not care about millions of other attainments. So this is the translation. Then we have the Digdarshini Tika by Sanatana Goswami in Sanskrit. And I think we'll leave that till later. And now we come to the Digdarshini Tika Bhavanuvad by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. So in the previous verse, Sri Satyabrat Muni prayed for Sri Krishna's whole form of Balagopal in Vrindavan to forever manifest in his heart. In this verse he prays, among all the limbs of your worshipful form, Sri Vigraha, I especially yearn to behold your supremely enchanting lotus face. Sri Satyabrat Muni speaks this verse beginning with Idam Te in order to convey his desire to Sri Bhagavan. Once in his meditation, Sri Satyabrat Muni had a momentary glimpse or spurti of the indescribable beauty of his worshipful Lord's lotus face. Now he expresses his experience in words by saying, Mukham Bojam. Your face is just like a lotus flower. In fact, your face is the original source of the beauty found in the fully bloomed lotus flower. Lavanamrita, right?
Lavanyamrita.
Lavanyamrita. Yes, Lavanyamrita means the origin of beauty. Krishna is the origin of beauty. Not just beautiful, he's the origin of every conceivable object in existence of beauty. He's its origin. Lavanyamrita. Very beautiful word. Lavanyamrita. Your face is like a lotus. In fact, your face is the original source of the beauty found in the fully blossomed lotus flower. It soothes all suffering, and it is permeated by the sweet nectar of supreme bliss. So beauty and bliss go together. Whenever we see anything exceptionally beautiful, even in the material world, there's a sense of sweetness that comes with it. If you see something very, very beautiful, some beautiful flower, some beautiful forest, some beautiful scenery, there's a sense of sweetness and bliss that comes with it. So this is saying here, you're the original source of beauty found in the Lord. It soothes all suffering, and it is permeated by the sweet nectar of supreme bliss. Then he prays, Me manasi muhur avrishtam. May that lotus face manifest within my heart again and again. This is greed. This is lobha. He only wants that. Focused. Doesn't want anything else at the moment. It's going to transition a little bit, because we said at the beginning how Sonaka Rishi, his staibhav was not fixed. So he's moving through these conceptions. We should never try to imagine our staibhav. Don't use your imagination for that. We just follow our natural attraction to the aspects of bhakti that we're practicing. It's a natural mood that has to manifest. And Guru, in his wisdom, will reveal that pure staibhav ultimately when we're completely ripe and ready to have it revealed to us. Don't try and imagine something previous to that, because it'll probably not be completely correct. So we have to pray to Guru to reveal our style. Although Gurudev has said many, many times, if you come to the camp of Sachinandan Gaura Hari, it's almost assured that you have the potential for Manjari Bhav. If you're interested in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his precepts, not just Sankirtan, book distribution, etc. If you're interested in Raganuga Bhakti, which is what Mahaprabhu has come to actually gift and give, this Anapita Chirim Chirat, this is what he's come to give, this Swabhakti Shriyam. If we're interested in this, even a little bit, it indicates that our staibhav is in that direction of Manjari Bhav, that we have the capacity to go in that direction. Mahaprabhu will make up any shortfall. Guru will make up any shortfall. We just have to have that desire. It's all about the lobe, the greed to attain this, as we've said many times. This is the nature of Raganuga Bhakti. We're only talking about Raganuga Bhakti here. We're not talking about anything else here, right? This whole Damodarastakam is only about Raganuga Bhakti. The whole dynamic of it is increasing. Shut the door, please. What is Krishna's lotus face? What is Krishna's lotus face like? Sri Satyabrat Muni continues. Your lotus face is encircled by curls of extremely black, soft hair that have a reddish luster. The word vritam suggests those curly locks seem like bumblebees around the lotus flower of your face. He continues, your lotus face is kissed again and again by a gopi. The gopi mentioned here can be conceived of as either Sri Yashoda or Sri Radha. Although the words muhur, again and again, can be applied to me manasi avrishtam as before, it can also be applied here to gopya. Thus it can be used twice, once regarding the gopis' kisses, gopya muhu kumbitam, and once regarding the sage's vision of Sri Krishna's lotus face, me manasi muhur avrishtam. Also, if we restrict the use of muhur to gopya based on its position within the verse, then a third sense is derived. Your lotus face is kissed again and again by extremely fortunate Sri Yashoda or by Sri Radha Gopi. May that lotus face manifest in my heart, even if I can only see it one time. Alternatively, the phrase me manasya avrishtam is a partial repetition of the phrase sada me manasi avrishtam from the previous verse. Therefore, the word sada always can also be applied here to derive the meaning. May the vision of your lotus face, being kissed again and again by Sri Yashoda or by Sri Radha, remain manifest in my heart forever. So Satyabrat Muni has this increased mood just to have that darshan of Balagopal's sweet, most beautiful, attractive face. Sri Satyabrat Muni describes another beautiful feature of Sri Krishna's lotus face with the words Bimba Vat Rakta Dharam. May your lotus face with lips like red bimba fruit remain visible in my heart forever. Then my life will be successful. He ends the verse with Laksha Labai. Besides this, millions and millions of other attainments are of no importance to me. The reconciliation of Sri Satyabrat Muni's rejection of millions of other attainments is the same as the one presented in the previous verse. So that's already been established. He doesn't want Navada Bhakti, he doesn't want Vaikuntha Prem, he doesn't want moksha, he only wants this. This is called Nishta, this is called one pointed focus. Ekatma, one focused. We have to become ourselves as sadhaks, one focused. So now the Digdarshini Briti by my Gurudev, by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. In the previous verse, it was as though Sri Bhagavan had become pleased by Sri Satyabrat Muni's devotional sentiments and said, O sage, I am satisfied with you. Ask a benediction from me. In response, Sri Satyabrat Muni prayed, O Prabhu, O Master of all those who grant benedictions, you are the most exalted. There is no limit to the blessings you can grant. But my dear Lord, none of those boons are of any use to me. So that's all described in the previous verse. Navada Bhakti, Moksha, etc., Vaikuntha Prem. Those are all the different boons that can be granted to him. So he doesn't want any of those. In the present verse, Sri Satyabrat Muni prays, Idam te mukam bojam. All I want is to see your exquisitely beautiful lotus face in my heart again and again. He's not asking to see him directly, although we should understand the real nature that Satyabrat Muni does want to see Krishna directly. And as a consequence of that, he takes birth as the son of Vivishwan in his next birth. He takes the birth of Vaivashvatu, who becomes the Manu in this age, Vaivashvatu Manu. Why has he got that benediction just in this particular 7th Manvantara? Because this is when the Supreme Lord appears and actually directly enacts this pastime. This pastime is only enacted once in the whole day of Lord Brahma, in the 7th Manvantara. This is the time when this Satyabrat Muni was in the 6th Manvantara, the Chakshush Manvantara. So he has this desire also to see him directly, because in Brihat Bhagavatamrita there's a whole sequence of descriptions which is better to actually see the Lord in your heart and like a Jnani Bhakta. And this is described by the 4 Kumaras. They are saying, no, this is you have to do like this to Gopkumar. Gopkumar is not satisfied with that. He wants to see the Lord directly. So there's a whole explanation describing that. This will be described in something in this presentation by my Gurudev. He is remembering the indescribable beauty. Where did I get up to? There?
All I want to see your electricity.
Wait a minute. All I want to see is your exquisitely beautiful lotus face in my heart again and again. He is remembering the indescribable beauty of Sri Bhagavan's lotus face in his form as Balagopal. Sri Satyabrat Muni only had a glimpse of that form within his heart, Spurti, during his meditation. What was it like? At first the sage uses the word avyakta. It is beyond the grasp of the material mind or material words. Avyakta. Further reflecting on what he saw in his Spurti, he says, your lotus face is encircled, avritam, by dark black curls of hair, which have a soft red glow that makes them look like bumblebees. Mother Yashoda and the gopis kiss that lotus face again and again because it's so beautiful. In the previous verse, Sri Satyabrat Muni prayed to see Sri Krishna's Balagopal form within his heart. But now he is praying specifically to see his beautiful lotus face, which he yearns to kiss. He wonders, I want to achieve something so rare. Will this hope of mine ever be fulfilled? This is his very secret, confidential aspiration that he's sharing in this verse. He doesn't know that that's even going to be possible, to actually see just that, to actually even kiss that face. He doesn't know that it's possible, but that's his desire. My Gurudev used to say many, many times, even though we don't understand the conception, even though we think it's, and it is so high, still, if we aspire for that, and he used to give the example of a really not particularly good-looking person who wanted to make Princess Diana his girlfriend or whatever, beloved. So even he's so unqualified to do that, still he had that desire to do that. So we should appreciate that. In the previous verse, Sri Satyabrat Muni, oh wait, I read this.
I want to achieve
The present verse marks an escalation.
Last sentence of the first
Okay. The present verse marks an escalation of the intense longing developing within Sri Satyabrat Muni's heart. This is the whole dynamic of Radha-kunda Bhakti. This is the whole dynamic, this increased intensity. We should see, especially during this month of Kartik, if you're following something carefully, if you're increasing your mala, your chanting, if you're increasing your focus, if you're reading perhaps more, if you're being very careful about your dietary intake, etc., if you're following closely the rules of Kartik Brat, then naturally your meditation is going to be more focused than ever before. And we should be coming to newer and newer heights of realization, day by day. If it's not happening like that, then really the current hasn't been ignited yet. If it becomes, Bhaktivedanta Swami talks about hackneyed. Hackneyed means kind of ordinary. Oh, I'm just chanting again today, I'm just doing this parikrama again today, and not really entering into the mood of what we're doing. It's called hackneyed. It's like again and again, repetitive. It's kind of like there's no exhilaration there. There's no ecstasy coming. So we should understand that something is not correct with our practice if it becomes like that. It should not just be actually every day. It should practically, I've often spoken about these wows in the past, you know, to have a wow, something that just opens your mind completely, right? You just have an experience that you've never had before and completely astonishes you. That chamatkara, a totally astonishing mood or vision. And I was saying we should at least have 5 a day of those. If we don't have but this is Kartik, and we should have more than that. But this increased mood of astonishment for where we're going, for what we're engaging in. It has to be really ecstatically dynamic to be real. It won't cut through the material boundaries unless it is. You'll just keep on holding to the material baggage all the time. The material baggage will become more important than the actual progress. At some point, we just have to be very brave and let go. Can we do it? No, not really. We can do it momentarily thinking about it, but thinking about it is the start of it. But we want to actually walk our talk, they say, which means you follow what your belief is. Don't restrict yourself by the material considerations all the time. And it comes from letting go of the past. I remember this beautiful poem by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Constantly, forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all. Don't be making all pretty plans for the future, because they're meaningless. They may happen or may not happen. But be with times that are with thee, that are now, and progress we shall make. Be in the powerful present. The powerful present is absolutely ecstatic, but most conditioned souls cannot tolerate the powerful present because they're so bewildered. So they have to go back into memories, especially when you're older, you go back into the past, and when you're younger, you keep dreaming of plans for the future. It seems the dynamic of the ages. We miss the powerful present. But for the sadhak, for the devotee, he should always be trying to sit in the powerful present, right now, because that ultimately is the eternal moment. That moment is going to touch the soul itself, the powerful present. That's the nature of the soul. The soul itself is eternal. At first, by the power of sadhusanga, an inclination to serve Krishna enters the heart. When one's anarthas are gradually driven away by performing bhajan in sadhusanga, the inclination to serve Sri Krishna will continue to increase, and one's consciousness will blossom more and more through the progressive stages of love of God, beginning from nishta, then through ruchi, asakti, and bhav, and finally prem. So the other day we spoke about those three levels, that Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas, and Anukul Abhilas, and Sohard Abhilas. Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas, to want to serve the Lord with all my heart and soul. But then another consideration, I want to serve the Lord with all my heart and soul in a favorable manner. It upgrades it. Both are commendable, of course. And then the third one is Sohard, to be friendly, to serve the Lord in friendship. They're quite different, all three desires. So our desires have to be fine-tuned as we go along this path. We're always amending our desire. We're always tuning, fine-tuning what it's going to be. And ultimately we want to come to this exalted place of Radha Dasya. If that is our prayer, if that has been instilled in us, yes, I want this Radha Dasya. This is what my Gurudev tried to instill in us from the very beginning. Just desire, even though we're so unqualified, it's the desire that will give us the qualification. Not by gyan, not by so many mantras, this is not giving us the qualification. It's ultimately greed. And it's greed for Guru Nishta. Because without that connection with Guru, to our Guru Parampara, nothing is going to happen. It absolutely must have the connection. If there's no connection, the plug's not plugged in. And the connection has to be examined daily. Am I pleasing my Guru? My Guru Varga? Am I pleasing Srila Rupa Goswami? Will he be happy by what I'm doing now? So we don't know, so we ask our present Guru. We don't know what is going to please Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We may have an inclination or a feeling, but we still have to confirm that with our present Guru. You cannot take initiation from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can't take initiation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. You have to take initiation from a living Guru. You can get so much sukriti from past personalities, but you can't get that vital connection. The plug won't be plugged in. It'll just be empty. We have to understand this. Guru Nishta, it's the backbone of our bhakti. The backbone. Without a backbone, you just flop over, right? You can't even walk. You can't even stand up without a backbone. So always this consideration should be there. Beginning from Nishta, then through Ruchi, Asakti, and Bhav, and finally Prem. However, a profound concept must be considered regarding each soul's ultimate development of love of Krishna. Each soul's. We've spoken about this a number of times. Each individual soul. It's not a group thing, it's an individual thing. If the intrinsic and internal inclination of a particular soul is to dedicate himself to Sri Bhagavan in the mood of a servant, Dasyaras, then his deepest inner hankerings will only be fulfilled by that mode of service. What is our individual hankering, our individual desire? Krishna wants us to be that point of happiness, that satisfaction, suprasidity, full suprasidity, because the conditioned soul in Kali Yuga is completely unsatisfied most of the time, because he has so many material desires to contend with. These material desires just create havoc in the mind. We want to become satisfied, at least materially, with whatever the Lord has arranged for us to have in our life, according to our karma. If we're wanting more than what the Lord has arranged, we're going to be unhappy. What's that? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma? Now Sochati, no more hankering. That means no more hankering, no more desires for anything. That's the only place to bring a sense of reconciliation and peacefulness to the mind. The mind has to be peaceful to move forward in that regard. If the intrinsic and eternal inclination of... I read that. will only be fulfilled by the mode of his service tendency will never proceed beyond dasya ras. I read everything
No, only this sentence was left in that paragraph.
in that paragraph.
Yeah.
Sri Satyabrat Muni's prayers reveal that his mood is destined to develop beyond dasya ras. This is what I said just before. Don't try and nail your staibab down to a particular identity until you have matured somewhat in your devotion, until Guru will inspire that direction clearly. Don't try and jump ahead. At the same time, we should be considering our innermost desire and try to remain in that identity. Yes, I want to be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika. So I'm thinking of that all the time. I'm reading about from Prabodhananda Saraswati. I'm reading from Raghunath Das Goswami, Vilap Kusumanjali. I'm reading from these different books indicating what it is to be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika. If I'm not reading those books, where is my actual greed? It's just mental. But if I'm immersed in the sweetness of the teachings of Srila Raghunath and Srila Rupa Goswami, of course, then my greed will have some focus, especially Vilap Kusumanjali. There aren't so many books on the market describing Manjari Bhav, but Vilap Kusumanjali is there. My Gurudev has spoken a whole commentary on that. So if we immerse, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, it brings all of these topics out if we become immersed in the moods of Mahaprabhu. All of these things are within the Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Sri Satyabrat Muni's prayers reveal that his mood is destined to develop beyond dasya ras, and that is why this verse expresses increasing longing within his heart. We can understand his situation by considering the history of Gop Kumar. Even when Gop Kumar had attained residence in Vaikuntha, his inner hankering was not satisfied. This is what I just said. Unless we have to be satisfied. Yeyatma suprasidati, saying right at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, how to become satisfied. Uninterrupted and unmotivated service to the Lord. What's that? Aprahiha. Savai Pomsan Parodama, Yato Bhakti Hoise, Ahoitiki Apratihata, Yeyatma Suprasidati. His inner hankering was not satisfied. It was not even satisfied when he reached Ayodhya or Dwarka within Vaikuntha. Finally, he reached Goloka Vrindavan, and when he experienced loving exchanges with Krishna in the mood of friendship, Sakyabha, all his desires were at last fulfilled. Gopkumar is ultimately Swarup, and he's in Sakyabha. His mood never went any further. Similarly, Satyabrat Muni's longing is advancing through progressive levels of bhakti. Very beautiful description here. These are really sweet commentaries. Each sadhak will relish the sweetness of Sri Krishna's pastimes according to his own relationship, sambandha, with him, and also according to his qualification, adhikar. No two people are qualified exactly the same way. We've all come from billions of different births. We all have different inclinations, etc. It's these unique specialities that we want to perceive within ourselves. It's not going to be like every... So we have to have some courage. We're not following the party line. Mahaprabhu is described as being the most non-conformist preacher to ever walk this earth. Non-conformist. Walking around in South India with his arms in the air, calling out Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Nobody before had ever done that. So we have to have that confidence. We've said this before. Where are we up to? Sorry. Similarly...
The description of...
Oh, thus in the description of Krishna's lotus feet being kissed again and again, Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that the word Gopya can refer to either Mother Yashoda or to Sri Radhika. The phenomenon of relishing Sri Krishna's pastimes according to one's own mood is illustrated in the following example. Once upon seeing scratch marks on her son's limbs, Mother Yashoda exclaimed, "Oh, where did these scratches come from?" Kundalata, who was standing nearby, heard this and commented, "Your son performs rasa at night. These marks are from that." Ras Leela is the prominent pastime in Madhurya Ras, conjugal love. So how could Mother Yashoda be privy to this amorous pastime? The answer is that Mother Yashoda was simply inquiring like an ordinary mother who was worried about the scratches on her son. Still, she was not necessarily unaware that her son was in fact performing Ras Leela. She had no idea. She just thinks that when her son goes into the pasturing grounds with all the suckers, they wrestle with him and fight with him, and this is how he gets these scratches. Vatsalya Ras assists and nourishes Madhurya Ras. Nevertheless, as soon as Mother Yashoda heard Kundalata's reply, she at once said, "My darling boy is still breastfeeding. He does not even have his milk teeth. He can barely speak. He just talks in broken childish language. And you are saying he engages in amorous affairs at night? My dear young lady, you do not know. I will tell you how he got these marks. When he takes the cows into the forest to graze, he loses himself in play with the other boys. Sometimes while chasing stray calves, he runs through thorny bushes. He is so absorbed in playing at such times that he's not even aware that he's being scratched. That is where these marks came from." Mother Yashoda knows that. She's not just saying that, she knows that. And Mother Yashoda would never want to increase her rasa. This is another important point. Every person's, like Gop Kumar, his rasa is Sakya Ras. He doesn't want to go to anything beyond that because his personal rasa is utterly satisfying to his heart and soul in every way. There's no need to go further. But Satyabrat Muni is not like that. Satyabrat Muni wants to go further. But we should understand Mother Yashoda is utterly, utterly satisfied. She's the embodiment of Vatsalya Rasa. She wouldn't, even if she heard all the descriptions of Madhurya Rasa, etc., she just wouldn't be interested to give up the joy of Vatsalya Rasa. Because that's her staibhav. You don't want to change that. So we'll stop here today. This is so nectar. Actually, this is commentary. This is such a rasic book. I've told you before, I've read it many times. I've got it all marked all the way through it. But I've never appreciated just how rasic it is until I've been allowed to speak it during Kartik in Radha-kunda. And somehow or other the atmosphere lends itself to bringing out the most deepest, sweetest aspects of this Astakam. So, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Damodarastakam ki jai, Radha-kunda ki jai, Radha-dasyam ki jai, and the Gopal Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. So now we'll come to our Damodarastakam. And we can remember while we're reading this Damodarastakam that Srila Trikram Maharaj and Srila Vamana Maharaj, of course, were so immersed in the same Damodarastakam, in the same moods during the month of Kartik every single year. Not in my pocket, no. Who hasn't got one? Downstairs. So we're reading through verse 5, and we've come from this pivotal verse 4, Varam Deva Moksham, Namokshav Adimva. And we've come through to this point now where Satyabrat Muni, the intensity and greed, his lobha, of his desire has come to its surface. and he just wants to see the beautiful face of that Bala Gopal. Previously, he wanted to see the whole form of Bala Gopal in his heart. Now, it's increased, his ecstasy has increased, and he just wants to see the sweet face of Bala Gopal. So it's a distinction, showing us the escalation, the increased bliss from hearing these verses. These verses were not necessarily all spoken at the same time. There's a period of time between the verses. It's not that just you hear one verse and then you go straight to the next conception, straight to... There can be years and years in between each verses, be manifestation of them. But there's actually lifetimes of progress between each verse to come to the next verse, to come to the next stage. It's not that just because we're up to verse 5, then all of a sudden we've understood this totally. It will take time to absorb and amalgamate it properly. So we've come to page 109. So the last thing we were reading about was, I'll read a little bit of the last part. We were reading about Vatsalya Prem. Oh, we were talking about how Mother Yashoda, in her Vatsalya Prem, would never in her dreams want to change her mood of Vatsalya Prem. She is completely, fully satisfied. It's who she is. This identity, this Staibhav of Vatsalya Prem. This is who Mother Yashoda is. Even though she might momentarily consider, well, she can't even consider that Krishna went to the forest. The last thing we were saying, that Kundalata had suggested that all these scratch marks had come from Krishna performing rasa at night. And Mother Yashoda chastised her. How can that possibly be? My son, he's still breastfeeding. He can't even speak properly. And you're saying he goes and performs Ras Leela. It completely not even enter her consciousness. So this Staibhav is something that is utterly satisfying. It's all embracing by the personality who is experiencing that Staibhav. So Mother Yashoda is completely fixed in Vatsalya Bhav. Never, there's not a mood of wanting to upgrade or something like that. It doesn't even come into the consciousness. So this was the last thing we were discussing. And now we come to the second paragraph in 109. The devotee will hanker for a particular rasa according to his own eternal mood. Srila Sanatana Goswami presents Srila Satyabrat Muni as a perfect example of this, because he's going from mood to mood to mood. He starts off in Dasya, he moves to Sakya, he comes into Vatsalya, and ultimately he's going to go to Madhurya. So we see this transition going on. According to his own mood, Srila Satyabrat Muni is trying to awaken within his own heart the bhav of one of Krishna's eternal Ragatmika Jan by performing sadhan bhajan under their guidance. This has been the focus point in this commentary, that we must be under the guidance of the Ragatmika Gan, of the Brijbasis. All the conclusions, Tishtem Braje Tanuragi Janugami, Rupa Goswami is saying repeatedly, again and again, one must follow in the wake of the residents of Vrindavan, who are all Rag Atmika Vaishnavas, are Atmika devotees, Ragatmikas, we say. They don't have a designation of Vaishnava, they're just Ragatmika. According to their own mood, Srila Satyabrat Muni is trying to awaken within his own heart, yes, I just read that, following in the footsteps of Sri Satyabrat Muni. A sadhak should think, if earrings such as only gold, which are only gold, can kiss the cheeks of Sri Krishna, then why can't I? Certainly I will also do this. With this yearning, he should endeavor to attain his goal with the conviction that he does not need any other benediction. Such endeavor is called abhideya. Abhideya means the means, the method to attain the sadhya. And Rupa Goswami is the Abhidheya Acharya. The sadhya is the Prayojan, that's Raghunath Das. And the Sambandha is Sanatana Goswami. So this Abhidheya, the method, because he's already stated his claim in the previous verse, this Varam Deva Moksham. He's already said he doesn't want this. And now this is his focus, what he does want, with such intention. So the sadhak must aspire to craft his own desire very, very clearly in his heart, what he wants and how he wants to attain it. That's called the Abhidheya. How are we going to attain this? Yes, we're hearing about so many nice things. How are you going to attain it? What is the method you're going to perform to attain it? What is the method that we're hearing by the sadhaks? Seva sadhak rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi. Tat bhav lipsana karya. Tat bhav, what's the last one? You don't know it. No one's up. Brajalokanashrata. Yes, to follow again in the footsteps of the Brijabasis. This is our, and that has to be cultivated. It's not just going to happen by itself. It won't just drop out of the sky. We have to be attentive to the different acharyas who are speaking specifically on these topics if we want to go in that direction. And then we will catch that speciality. There was a personality called Bhakti Jiva Janardhan Goswami, and he was very rasik personality, and he would only speak on these topics, and anyone who came in contact with him and heard those topics could become attracted to this path. My Gurudev is the same. So we want to be very specific. We've spoken before. What sort of association do we want? Do you remember the expression? Swajatya, Shnigdha, Ashraya. Swajatya means the same mood. Yes, I want to be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika. Swajatya, Shnigdha, those personalities who are affectionate to us. Shnigdha means affection. And Ashraya, we have the feeling they are senior to us. This is the association we must seek. If we're always looking at the external aspect, how is that going to awaken the inner reality of our spiritual personality? If we're always running, doing the external aspects, if we're not giving ourselves sufficient time to introspect, to reflect, to meditate, to contemplate, if we don't give a, and by doing that, it's very difficult. No one said it's easy. And all kinds of previous Purva Sanskars are going to have to be confronted. Your various associations we've had for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, all those impressions are going to rise in the consciousness and chatter to us. So how are we going to purify those previous impressions and reinstate the real impression of this Braja Prem? It takes focus, it takes effort, it takes concentration, chesta, endeavor, and then only the Kripa will come. But it's not going to happen by magic. It's not, oh, I will live in Vrindavan, jibba jabba, chant a bit of Hare Krishna, and then all of a sudden my Swarup, my Siddhadeha will manifest. It's not going to be like that. We have to diligently, like we've just described, the personality of Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj. What sort of diligence did he have in his life? What sort of soberness did he show to the world? I can remember looking in his horn-rimmed glasses through to his eyes, and it was just like so deep, in another dimension altogether, just so powerful. So we are aspiring in that direction. It requires proper abhideya, proper guidance, isn't it? How else is it going to happen? It won't happen by itself. If we just keep chasing our tails around the world, here and there and here and there and this and that, and so many different things, how is this focus going to manifest? It won't. Actually, what we do, we run away. Most of the time we run away from ourselves. Our true self is so potent and powerful that often I don't want to confront him, my real spiritual identity. I'd rather be distracted and just jump for something else, not think about it. It's too much of a big thing to think about it, you know? But ultimately, it has to be faced. I said before, we need courage on this path, deep courage. Because certainly when you start this introspection and reflection and chanting significantly, you can attain this easily, simply by following Mahaprabhu's desire to chant 64 rounds a day. It's not impossible to do. It's not something so far away from any of us. We can just cultivate this, because it's that mood that's going to reduce the intoxication of the Mayic energy. It's that mood of addressing that Mayic energy and becoming sober. The Mayic energy is intoxicating with so much enjoyment for the eyes, for the sense of touch, for the taste, for the tongue, for sounds, beautiful sounds, etc. So much pleasure is there for the material senses. It checks us from entering internally. Doesn't it? Is it fact or not? Huh?
Yes.
When he at last attains his own eternal constitutional mood of service in one of the 5 rasas, then he will attain the ultimate goal and the stage of prayojan. So from abhideya to prayojan. Whose prem is stronger? Mother Yashoda's prem for her darling son is certainly stronger than his prem for her, than Krishna's prem for her. Because we said at the very first verse, Mother Yashoda catches Krishna. And the devotee must actually learn to run faster than Krishna if he wants to catch Krishna. That's an amazing appreciation. That takes us out of the baby mentality. Many times we sit in this baby mentality that yes, Krishna will just do it all for me. But where is my determination? Where is my love, lobha, greed for him? Where is that? It'll come if we attempt it. Once we attempt, I can remember in my own personal life when I began chanting more, and I had many services to do. And just so simply, I was in the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. Somehow or other, Krishna just covered everything without any interruption, without any problem. Everything was suddenly just taken care of. And it wasn't just like, oh, he's some crazy sitting in his room just chanting all day or something like that. Because we have our external profile that we, need to maintain to some degree, etc. It's there, right? It's part of our lives, So how to reconcile that and not disturb the social environment around you, because that will just reflect back on you becoming disturbed. If you decide to be spending more and more time chanting, etc. We have to, actually it's quite simple. If you go to bed early, this is the first point of it. It's going to bed early, and people can't do it. I said it a million times, but they don't seem to be able to do it. I mean, after 7:30, 8 o'clock, what else is there to do in just take some entertainment, some chattering. Really and truly, the body is tired by that time. And if you take rest then, you can probably get up 2:30, 3 o'clock. And if you start chanting then, you can probably finish complete that lak by 9:30 and still do all your various activities in the world. Quite easily. We've done it. I used to do many japa retreats. And so many devotees came, and they actually found such nectar in connecting with a larger amount of chanting in their life, because it sobers the material illusion. It brings it down. First of all, that's the first thing. And then if you continue, then it starts to take you into these topics. Then you start to craft and carefully see your focus. Where am I going? How am I going to connect with Srimati Radhika? Possibly, I'm so unqualified. I have no qualification whatsoever. But still I do it. And wait for the mercy of Guru to manifest. If any devotee hears the pastimes of Mother Yashoda binding Krishna with her prem and of her kissing his lotus face again and again, a longing will enter his heart. If I follow in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, perhaps I will also be able to kiss the lotus face of her darling boy. So this is a mood of Vatsalya prem. But who kisses Sri Krishna's face the most, more than anyone else? Sri Radhika drinks the nectar of Sri Krishna's lotus face by kissing it again and again. And what's that dynamic? She doesn't even think she's done it at all. They complain in Gopi Geet, oh, you've just given us a tiny little drop, we're dying. You have to give us more. Actually, they've kissed so many times, but the nature of that is that they don't feel that they've had enough. They haven't even started. At the beginning of this Astakam, Sri Satyabrat Muni was praying in the mood of Dasyaras. Now in this verse, his prayers are imbued with a desire to enter the mood of Vatsalya Ras. May that supremely charming lotus face, which is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, manifest within my heart forever. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Sri Krishna in a general sense. Jivara Sarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. This is the beginning of our Staibhav. Our Staibhav is fixed. What is fixed? That I am an eternal servant of Krishna. That is absolutely fixed. But what type of servant of Krishna I am? That is going to be influenced by the association I hunger for and crave for and get inspired to take. That association is going to strengthen my identity, my eternal identity. His prayers are imbued with a desire to enter the mood of Vatsalya Ras. May that supremely charming lotus face, which is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, manifest within my heart forever. Forever. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Sri Krishna in a general sense. However, by performing intimate service and by acquiring Sri Bhagavan's mercy, he will gradually progress, and a deep longing to perform service under the guidance of one of Sri Krishna's eternal associates, Anugatya Mayi Seva, will begin to manifest within his heart. That's the process. You practice seriously and sufficiently, and the desire to open more doors into the nature of Braja Prem, Braja Ras. That means we need guidance of someone who is already through that door. They can guide us, because otherwise it's going to be a figment of our imagination. That is useless. That is completely to be rejected. We're not looking to imagine these things. This is something that's coming from the spiritual side. We want to first of all connect with our spiritual identity. My first identity is Jivara Sarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. Every footstep I walk, I'm thinking, can I please Krishna? Like we have our beautiful Jai Prabhu here. He's serving in so many ways all the time. He never stops. This is because he's a very mature senior devotee. And he has the quality of humility simultaneously. So this indicates this is someone that I can follow and see this inspiration. So we want association. But if someone is just always running out and making a big splash in the world and making thousands of people come and so on, is that going to bring you to an internal place of reflection? Actually, it'll make you feel famous in the material world. People will honor you and acclaim to you. And what will happen? Pratishta will come. And who will purify that pratishta? Who is there who's going to be able to purify that? It's very difficult to go that route. So I might stop here tonight, and we can continue from the 3 dots tomorrow. That'll be very clear. Oh, tomorrow is Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, his Tirobhav. So right on the heels of Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Maharaj and Srila Sri Vikram Maharaj. What can we say that everyone doesn't know about Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? His glories have been broadcast so strongly, especially in the Western worlds. But we'll certainly endeavor to glorify him to the best of our ability tomorrow. So we'll see. So Sri Damodarastakam ki jai. Vaishnav Atta ki jai. Vaishnav Atta means the qualities of the Vaishnavas. The qualities of the Vaishnavas we are seeking. Specific qualities. If we're on this path that is being recommended here by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prajan. He's come to give us Raganuga Bhakti. This is what Sachinandan Gaurahari has come to benedict the world with. It's accessible to us. We must have absolute nishta in this, absolute faith. Yes, I can achieve it because Mahaprabhu has said it's possible. I am the most fallen, more fallen than anyone, actually. And we are all fallen in this most fallen age, and yet we have the highest prospect. I've described before how in the age of Satya Yuga, people were so qualified to perform tapasya, sitting in rings of fire in the middle of summer, etc., freezing cold rivers. But what could they attain? Vaikuntanath, Parameshwara, Paramatma. They couldn't attain Brajendra Nandansha. And as the ages come down, it seems like the attainment, as we become more and more fallen. Why is that? Because when you're fallen, you're not so proud. And this humility is the principal quality. And to feel completely like bereft is helpful on this path. But if you're feeling, oh yes, I've done this and I've done that and look at me, then you've got a brick wall in front of you. Can't do anything. So humility. I've said again and again, Trinadapi Sunichena. And I suggested the other day, we make a point in our daily schedule. How many hours in the day do we have? We have 24 hours, actually. You know, and in that time, even just brushing your teeth, you might just before you start doing that, saying, Trinadapi Sunichena. Some point in the day, say this verse, at least once. Because what happens when we become proud? When we become proud, then we start looking at other people as if they're not so qualified and as good as us. What's that called? Envy. So pride and envy are synonymous. And that's most despicable. We can't move on that track. So, Damodarastakam ki jai. So by reading this Damodarastakam, it's taking us right into Braj, in the deepest aspect of Braj. What is the deepest aspect of Braj? It's the relationships. It's described, there's 3 principal Shaktis. There's the Sandini, Sangvit, and Hladini Shaktis. These are all manifesting from Swarup Shakti, Sri Radhika. So the Sandini Shakti is the potency of existence. And in the spiritual world, the Sangvit Shakti is the potency of knowledge. But what knowledge is there in the spiritual world? There's the knowledge of relationships. What is my relationships with the other Brijabasis? What is my relationship with Radha and Krishna? What is my relationship in service, etc.? So this Sangvit Shakti is like, and then what is the Hladini Shakti? Is the tasting of the sweetness and bliss of those relationships. That's how it's described. So we have these 3 principal potencies, And the culmination is the Hladini Shakti, which is the bliss potency, which manifests when we realize our relationships. So this little Damodarastakam book is churning the relationships in Vrindavan. This pastime of Dambanda Lila, we went through it at the very beginning when in the second verse, Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugam Rijantam, that when Krishna's rubbing his eyes again and again, then he's bound by his mother, and then he pulls down those two Arjun trees, and the consequence of that was incredible, because Mother Yashoda was feeling responsible for almost, it seemed, her son was about to die by the crashing of these trees, and yet he was okay. And then Nanda Baba was very angry with Mother Yashoda for binding him. So all these feelings that were being expressed by the Brijbasis at that time, it put them into the description in the third verse. Iti driksva lilabhya ananda kunde. This bliss of, this kund of bliss. This is the third verse of the Damodarastakam. These pastimes, Krishna is churning. He's arranging these pastimes, just like Kalyanaga. He allowed the Brijbasis to come and see him bound in the coils of this enormous, we can't conceive of this enormous serpent, this snake. He had 1,000 hoods, 101 prominent hoods, massive, massive body. And he bound little Krishna in the coils of his body. And all the Brijbasis, this was the first demon that the Brijbasis had ever seen Krishna contending with. They'd never seen him fighting with Putana. Putana, just as soon as she started to lose her life, when Krishna was sucking all the life air out of, she manifested her 12-mile high form and just took a couple of steps into Mathura vicinity. So they didn't actually see Krishna do this. They don't actually see Krishna fight with Trinavrata. They didn't actually see Shakatasura. They don't see Bakasura. They don't see Agasura. They don't see Pralambasura. But with Kaliya, they did see him. Why? Because Krishna wanted to again churn their hearts. What were their feelings? Mother Yashoda immediately wanted to enter into that lake. How could she think otherwise? She was fearless about the poison of the lake. But Baladev was there with a brilliant smile on his face, knowing the omniscience of his younger brother, and reassured them all, it's okay, my younger brother will take care of everything. And somehow or other, Baladev managed to pacify them. But they had this churning of the hearts again. And certainly in this Dambanda Lila, right at the very beginning in Gokul, we haven't even come out of Gokul yet. This is all taking place in Gokul, which is actually on the other side of the Jamuna from here. We're all on the western side now. Govardhan is on the western side. And Gokul is on the eastern side. It's right down the bottom of the 5 forests. We have Bhadravan, Bandiravan, Belvan, Lohavan, and Mahavan. And Gokul is in Mahavan, near the extremity of the south end, you can say, or the southeast of Braj. So if we got our geography a little bit there, we can see where we're at. Because a little time after this, all these senior members of the family, they all got together, Upananda, Abhinanda, etc., Nanda Baba's brothers, and decided they would leave Gokul. And they would go back to their ancestral homes in Nandagaon and Varshana. Those were their original places, but they had left because Parajanya, who's Krishna's grandfather, he had become intimidated by the Keshi demon, it's described. Keshi demon was roaming around at that time. He didn't just manifest when we hear the pastime of Keshi demon, he has always been around. So because of that intimidation, they left Nandagaon previously and went to Gokul. And of course, Vrishabhanu Maharaj is always with Nanda Baba, and he took his residence in Raval. So this is the pastime places of Krishna and the Brijbasis. But what we're talking about here is the relationships like I've just described, that Sangvit Shakti means knowledge of the relationships. Knowledge in this world is like Bautik Gyan, or knowledge of Shastra, etc. But knowledge in the spiritual world is just knowledge of my relationship. And then the realization of that relationship manifests in bliss, which is the Hladini Shakti. Because it's described also in Jivadhamma in the 14th chapter, how this knowledge appears first in the mental faculty. We hear these truths, these tattvas, and then it glides down slowly into the heart region when we have absolute nishtha and faith in these topics. It comes into the, and then it mixes with the Hladini Shakti. And that's the complete potency of bliss. And that's when the sadhaks become most blissful, when that knowledge has come down into the heart and mixed with that Hladini Shakti. And who is that Hladini Shakti? The embodiment is Sri Radhika, of course. So all of this is relevant, in a sense, to appreciating the speciality of the relationships. So today, we've come to our 5th verse, and in the 5th verse, it's saying specifically, in the 4th verse, Satyabrat Muni was rejecting Navada Bhakti. He was rejecting moksha, he was rejecting Vaikuntha Prem. This was a huge step. When we hear these things, we also should reject these things. This is the point. We should move into a mood of catching the lotus feet of Satyabrat Muni and wanting to follow the moods that he is going through. It began with Dasya, and then it escalated into Sakya, and now we're looking at Vatsalya Bhav. So the sadhak, he also wants to follow this path that's been chalked out, that's been opened out to us so graphically through this path. This pastime is remarkable. It contains everything. And my Gurudev has filled in all the spaces in between, so the sadhak can become very serious about his practices and where he's going. If we don't know where we're going, how are we going to get there? If you go to the airport and you don't have a ticket to your destination, and they say to you, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I just want to go somewhere. Well, where do you want to go? What is your ticket? What is the sadhya? It's the sadhya that has to be fine-tuned. And as soon as you fine-tune the sadhya, then you can move into 4th, 5th, 6th gear. If you haven't got the goal fixed, if it's all just the disturbed mind and the distractions of this Mayic world, but the goal internally hasn't been properly positioned, then you can't really move ahead, because you're always trying to compromise with your material desires rather than focus on the goal and what do I need to do to attain that place. You understand? It's a process. It's a process. It's like a mathematical, scientific process, A, B, C. It moves along like that. Once we enter into these topics, we can see all the Shastras are saying the same thing. All are marking out the same path, particularly the Rasa Shastras. That's when we make another leap from the Atma Tattva, so to speak, into the Rasa Tattva section, as we did with Jivadhamma. Jivadhamma is the most excellent book for graphically delineating, charting, navigating our course, getting our compass on track. So Damodarastakam is really supporting this. So now we've come to this 5th verse, and Satyabrat Muni, he's gone from the goal of wanting to see just the form of Balagopal in his heart. Now it's escalating. He just wants to see the beautiful face, yes, of Balagopal. Not the rest of the body, just the face. So this escalation is prominent in here. Okay, so we were up to page 110, and I just want to reiterate the paragraph before these 3 dots on the page, just to refresh what we did last time. At the beginning of this Astakam, Sri Satyabrat Muni was praying in the mood of Dasya Ras. Now in this verse, his prayers are imbued with the desire to enter the mood of Vatsalya Ras. It's increasing. May that supremely charming lotus face, which is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, manifest within my heart forever. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Sri Krishna in the general sense. We spoke about this yesterday, right? Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was training us to be servants of Krishna. Emphatically, right? That was his mission, to give them, first of all, God, to purify that impersonal conception that was so prominent in the Western countries, that sunyavad, to purify that, and give them, not just give them God, but give them the personality of Godhead. Had you ever heard that experience, that expression before? The supreme personality of Godhead? That never manifested previously. The supreme person, my Gurudev used to say it, but it was difficult for him to say that because his English wasn't so fluent. He'd always say, the supreme personality of Godhead. But it has a definite potency to it because he's a person, the supreme personality of Godhead. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave us that. My Gurudev used to say, your Prabhupada, he's come to give you Krishna. Has come to tell you that Krishna is the supreme. I've come to tell you that he's not. That Sri Radhika is the supreme. And that is fascinating when we get into Radha Tattva and we start to understand how Sri Radhika controls Krishna. Krishna is Mohini Murti and Radhika is Mohini. Huh? Madan Mohan. And Krishna and Radhika is Madan Mohan, Mohini. She controls Krishna. So this switch of appreciation, we can only get to that place in consciousness by following the direction of Sachinandan Gaurahari. To take our Harinam. A Harinam will open these doors. Just like in our Gayatri mantras, they open the doors in the consciousness to a deeper place of reflection and introspection. That's what the Gayatri mantras facilitate. The Hare Krishna mantra does the same. The Hare Krishna mantra is superior to the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra doesn't cross over the Viraja river, but the Hare Krishna mantra does. So it's superior. So he's praying that this charming face will manifest in his heart for her. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Krishna in a general sense. So that's the general sense that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada taught us. However, by performing intimate service and by acquiring Sri Bhagavan's mercy, he will gradually progress, and a deep longing to perform service under the guidance of one of Sri Krishna's eternal associates, Anugatya Mai Seva, will begin to manifest within his heart. We'll start to realize that we must have that absolute guidance, that guidance from that Rasik Vaishnava. Otherwise, we will not go to that Rasik place. It's like if you want to study anything, you have to have a teacher who can teach it to you. So similarly, if you want to go into that realm, that divine realm, you have to have someone who is already in that realm to take you in there. It's impossible. Doesn't matter how much you chant, whatever you do, you can do Dandavat Parikramas every single day. You still can't access that divine truth without the mercy of that Rasik Vaishnava. Absolutely impossible. He's going to bestow Krishna's mercy into our hearts. That's what his capability is. So now we come after the three dots here. Just like the omniscient supersoul present in the core of everyone's heart, the Guru has the special characteristic of perfectly knowing our heart. We described yesterday with Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada how he would look into the hearts of all the different devotees and see them, everything about them, totally. And the devotees would recognize that. He knows the eternal constitutional mood of our soul, our eternal relationship with Bhagavan, and accordingly, he connects us with him. This is Guru's. Guru is like, he fills the vacuum. You have Krishna in one sense, in one level, and you have the conditioned jivas in another level. And between the two, there's like a vacuum. And in that vacuum sits Guru to connect the two together, the two worlds. They are totally different worlds. In this world, we believe in ourselves and our own material happiness constantly. It's called the perverted reflection. But in the spiritual world, there's no thought about the false ego. There is no false ego. There's only thought about how can I please and satisfy Krishna. It's a big transition. It starts in this world, the practice of that mentality. And then by Gurudev's mercy, it transitions into the spiritual reality or spiritual consciousness. Accordingly, he connects us with him. Then by supplying the water of hearing, chanting, and remembering, he nourishes that relationship and cuts down anything that obstructs that nourishment with the sharp axe of his words. He does this so expertly that the sadhak barely notices, but all the while the needful is accomplished. The sadhak doesn't even really know what's going on because his consciousness hasn't transitioned yet. But Guru, he's doing it very, very expertly. I have more of these books in my room if somebody wants to run back and get them. They don't have the book. This is what the bona fide Guru and genuine Vaishnavas do. They do not have bodies of flesh and bone. They are which are subject to change and which may die at any moment. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he told his disciples repeatedly, I am eternal. And all the disciples, Jai, Jai. But he meant it. He is eternal. When we talk about him, when we pray about him, he becomes livingly present in our consciousnesses. Or, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what did he say? What is that expression? What is it? Yes, yes, yes. How does it start?
He
He who reasons ill that Vaishnavas die, though living,
still,
how have I forgotten that? He who reasons ill that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and in living try to spread the holy name around. Yes. Thank you, Nanda. You should sit closer, Nanda. Claims that he's not even a devotee, but actually he's such a devotee. They are the eternal associates of the most merciful incarnation of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's just who we were discussing just now, Sri Swarup Siddhanti Maharaj. They're eternal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They've come into this world to support Mahaprabhu's, to support Sri Krishna's teachings, or to support Sri Krishna's desire to taste Radhika's moods. Krishna wants to taste himself. He wants everything. He sees Radhika is enjoying more bliss than me. He wants that. He's very greedy. He wants to be the Ashraya. So he takes that Bal and Kanti himself as Mahaprabhu, who descended to deliver the fallen souls of in this age of Kali. Guru and Vaishnavas are among the intimate companions of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna. The way Sri Bhagavan extends his loving mercy to the souls bound by Maya is by sending associates like these in the form of Vaishnavas. Sri Krishna's lips have been compared to red bimba fruits, bimba rakta adaram. Although ripened bimba fruit is extremely soft and beautiful, in reality it is far excelled by the softness and beauty of Krishna's lips. Still, even though Sri Krishna's lips are so beautiful, he constantly hankers to drink the nectar of the lips of his beloved gopis. Then what must their lips be like? What must the gopis' lips be like? Krishna is hankering to drink the nectar from their lips, even though his lips are so nectarine, but he wants to drink their lips. So how special are the gopis? Then what must their lips be like? The most clear example of how Krishna hankers to drink the nectar of the gopis' lips is found in Brahmara Gita, in the conversation between Srimati Radhika and a bumblebee.
Sakritadhara sudham swam mohinim payayitva sumanasa iva sajjastatyajesman bhavadrak paricharati kadham tatpada padmam tu padma yapibata hrita cheta hyuttama sloka jalpai.
So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-13. Just as you abandon a flower after drinking its honey, Sri Krishna completely bewildered us by making us drink the nectar of his lips only once and then suddenly abandon us. They didn't drink it just only once. They drank it many times, but they had the conception that it was only once. They're accusing Krishna because they're hurt. When Uddhav comes to Uddhav Kyari, this is where this conversation is spoken. When he comes as a messenger from Krishna, the gopis immediately start expressing their unhappiness with Krishna because he's left them. When they gave them absolutely everything, they had given more than their life heirs to Krishna. They had given them every part of their existence, their shyness, their reputation, everything they had given to Krishna, and he left them. So they're not happy. So they are saying strong words to Uddhav in response to his messages to them. Why does goddess Padma, Lakshmi Devi, who herself is just like a lotus flower, serve his lotus feet? They're accusing her that she is actually inferior to them. There's a whole explanation here I'll go into. Who herself is just like a lotus flower, serve his lotus feet. It seems that her mind has certainly been stolen by his cunning words. However, we are not naive like Lakshmi Devi. They're claiming that they are smarter than Lakshmi Devi. They really want to pull Krishna's ears. They're not happy with him. It's going to expand from this. I was reading this today and I was amazed how my Gurudev is weaving this into Damodarastakam. He's weaving this incredible pastime of Brahmara Gita into the Damodarastakam to help us understand deeply the moods of Krishna's relationship with the gopis. This is all connecting with the principle that we've spoken at the beginning about the relationships with the Brijbasis, the relationships in Vrindavan between Krishna and the gopis. Shri Radhika spoke these words to the bumblebee in intense separation from Krishna. O bumblebee, messenger of Shri Krishna, she said, your master knew that when he would leave us in the future to go to Mathura and elsewhere, we, the young damsels of Braj, would die from being separated from him. The gopis never leave Uddhav Kyari. They follow the trail of Akrura's chariot with their eyes until there's no dust left, and they remain standing like painted figures in a picture. For 100 years they stay there. 100 years. They never go back to their homes. Those expansions return, but they themselves, the gopis, they remain in that Uddhav Kyari for 100 years. They can't move. This is how much they love Krishna. Krishna arranges this pastime so that we can glorify the extensive love of the gopis. If we can catch this mood that the gopis have for Krishna in their attraction to Krishna, we've captured everything. That is what bhajan means, is to remember the gopis' sweet connection and moods to Krishna. That is what bhajan means. would die from being separated from. He likes to see us writhing in the pain of separation so much that he forcefully made us drink the nectar of his lips just once. For only a few moments, he knew that death cannot come to anyone who drinks that nectar, and he knew that later, unable to die from the pain of separation, we would simply writhe in agony. Materially, we can't really appreciate so much, because in the material world, separation is something negative, isn't it? When someone goes away, we feel very negative about that. But in the spiritual world, that separation mood, it just increases the desire, because we've said continually, what is the ingredient of Raganuga Bhakti? It's greed, lobha. That is the ingredient, lobha. Krishna is making the gopis even more greedy for his association. When he returns later, after they've sung even Gopi Geet, then Krishna, he comes very humbly, na paryeham niravadya samyujam, very humbly presenting himself, saying that I cannot repay you even in a lifetime of Lord Brahma. The gopis become pacified, and then they say, then Krishna says to them, I left you to increase your hunger for me, because that's going to increase the rasa. And they're totally satisfied the moment they see Krishna. The moment he comes, they're completely blissful. It's like, for example, when you come into Radha-kunda after a long time, and as soon as you see Radha-kunda, it's miraculous. Immediately, all your little difficulties vanish. Practically everyone has the same experience. As soon as you have darshan at the kund, boom, all difficulties that might have been there in the mind just disappear. This is direct darshan of Sri Radhika. That's the result. So similarly, when the gopis see Krishna, all of those difficulties that they experience in their separation moods evaporate.
Sri Krishna's eyes.
Sri Krishna's eyes, his eyebrows, his smile, and his lips are the sharp arrows of Cupid. This is what's described in the Kam Bij Gayatri mantra. These Pushpamanaya, these five arrows. Krishna, his smile, his eyes, his forehead, his flute, his whole moon-like face. These are like arrows piercing the heart. Once someone has seen them, he will remain wounded forever. Wounded forever. That's it. Finished. Finished, yes. Wounded forever. Once he will remain wounded. Devotees who cultivate Raganuga Bhakti, Bhakti following the wake of the Ragatmika Bhakti, or who are Rupanuga, followers of Sri Rupa Goswami, remember all these moods of Sri Radhika in separation as they perform sadhana, and thus lose all awareness of their bodies, their homes, and so on. So, we are Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga, Rupanuga sadhaks. We are following the external strictures, rules and regulations. But internally, our focus is on Raganuga Bhakti. That's the difference. A pure Vaidhi Bhakti, his internal focus will perhaps be on some type of liberation, perhaps Vaikuntha, even Dwarka. These are different high forms of liberation. But the sadhak who has his focus on following the Ragatmikas, even he's performing, what is Vaidhi? Vaidhi is going to Mangalati. Vaidhi is following Ekadashi. This is Vaidhi Bhakti. So the Raganuga, Rupanugas, they follow all of this. So we are Raganuga, Rupanuga, Vaidhi Bhaktas. Or Vaidhi Bhakta, Raganuga, Rupanuga, like that. There's a difference though, between someone who is just a Vaidhi Bhakta and someone who is embraced in their hearts the full vision of what is Raganuga. Because this was the gift of Mahaprabhu. We simply have to desire it. Mahaprabhu, that Supreme Lord, don't think, oh, I don't have the adhikar for this. Never think like that. Mahaprabhu will give you that. It's described that Krishna, if you wanted Krishna Prem, he would say, well, bring your container, your pot, and I will fill it up. But Mahaprabhu says, no, I will give you a pot as well, which means I will give you the adhikar to hold this nectar. This is Mahaprabhu's munificence, his mercy, Audarya. Sri Vrishabhanu Nandini continued to angrily lament to the bumblebee as she burned in the blazing fire of separation.
Yadanucharita lila karna piyusha viprut sakritadana vidhuta dvandva dharma vinashtaha sapadi griha kutumbam dina musrujya dina bahava iha vihanga bhikshucharyam charanti.
So we're still in Brahmaragit, chapter 47, verse 18. O messenger, she's talking to the bumblebee. Descriptions of your master's pastimes are exactly like nectar. If someone accepts even one drop of that nectar through his ears, even once, then his sense of obligation to worldly dualities is utterly ruined. It's finished. Because of that nectar, many people have quit their homes and families, leaving them utterly miserable, only to become miserable themselves, externally. When you leave your home and family, hearth, etc., it can be difficult. There's no family support, etc. You're just alone. That's the nature when you leave all of that. It's not necessarily going to be a fun party or anything like that. You're alone, and you have to introspect at that point. Because of that nectar, many people have quit their homes, leaving them utterly miserable, only to become miserable themselves. They live as mendicant beggars, wandering through these forests of Braj like birds without shelter. We see in Braj, we see many people wandering like this. They've left everything, especially those widows. You see many of those widows in Radha-kunda, and they've left everything. They're amazing, actually. They've endured because here in Radha-kunda in particular, it's more hot in summer and it's more cold in winter. It's very hard to live here, actually. And they've just given up everything with their faith in the Supreme Lord. And externally, it can be difficult for them. But internally, how much potency is going to flourish in their hearts. I can remember many years in the height of summer, when it was scorching heat, even in Vrindavan, not even in Radha-kunda. And so many people would leave. But if those devotees remained, there would be so much nectar, because Krishna appreciates that. Yes, they're staying because they're attracted to my pastime stalis, my pastime places. So Krishna, he's not a piece of wood, he's going to reciprocate. Always he will reciprocate. So, as if Radhika heard the bumblebee ask for an example of this, she said, "We are the unavoidable proof that this is true. There is no need to look for evidence anywhere else. Simply by hearing about his pastimes, we have become homeless." The gopis are sitting in Uddhav Kyari. I just described for 100 years, Krishna leaves them and goes to Dwarka. Does their love diminish even a centimeter? Krishna marries 16,108 queens. He has children, so many children, and grandchildren. Does that diminish their attraction to Krishna? Because they know that Krishna is only going to be really fully satisfied when he's with them. They know that, especially Sri Radhika. This is why Radhika becomes unhappy when Krishna goes with Chandravali. She knows Krishna cannot possibly be as happy with Chandravali as she is with her. She knows she's that Swarup Shakti. She knows how much Krishna loves her. So, in relationship to this pastime, We don't have a lot of time left, but I can begin this explanation to some degree because it's very beautiful to hear. So in this 47th chapter is when the bumblebee comes, and Uddhav, he's witnessing the power of Radhika's Divyan Mad. This means her demented madness practically in love with Krishna. It's like she's gone demented externally. She's chastising this bumblebee. She's imagining that this bumblebee is Krishna himself. Perhaps this bumblebee is Krishna himself, or that bumblebee could be the messenger from Krishna. But in either way, she's talking to the bumblebee as if he's Krishna. And she talks 10 particular verses. And these are incredible. These Chitra Jalpa or Udgunya. And these are all degrees of love, but in a crooked way. Radharani, she's saying, first of all, in verse 12, it's described Prajalpa. There are 10 of them. Prajalpa, Parijalpa, Vijalpa, Ujalpa, Sanjalpa, Avajalpa, Abhijalpa, Ajalpa, Pratijalpa, and Sujalpa. And they're all different degrees of anger with Krishna. The first one, for example, I just read one or two so you can get an idea of them. These are all described in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sa'artha Darshani. If you look at Sa'artha Darshani, Krishnadas Kaviraj, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all of these are described there with the explanation by Srila Rupa Goswami at the end. So this is Rupa Goswami's explanation, for example, of the meaning of Prajalpa, is the first demented talk that she's giving to this bumblebee. It's saying that she puts down the tactlessness. You know this word tactlessness? When someone is not, how would you describe? No English scholars here. Tactless, you know this word tactless? Means you're not presenting it properly. Tactless, you do something stupid. So she's saying that her lover is tactless. Everything is putting Krishna down, actually. This is her love, which has become hurt. This is what this Brahmara Gita is about. And it's the highest conception of love when you get into it. Tactlessness of one's lover with expressions of disrespect. She's showing Krishna so much disrespect here. She say, it is spoken in a mood of envy, jealousy, and pride. Radharani is Uddhav is amazed. He's never heard anyone speak like this about Krishna. He's only heard Krishna being glorified by the Dwarka. He's never heard Krishna being, practically we would say, blasphemed by the gopis. So these are escalations of anger by Sri Radhika. And the next one, for example, shows through, it's called Parijalpa, shows through various devices that one's own cleverness, by expressing his merciless duplicity, fickleness, ungratefulness, they're showing their own superiority of cleverness. Radharani is saying, I am more sensitive to this loving mood than you are. And she's saying how merciless Krishna is. And there's 10 of them. And they highlight at the 5th. They go through a progression. And they come to the 5th one, which is Sanjalpa. And then speech that decries with deep irony and insulting behavior of the beloved as ingratitude and complete lack of love. She's saying Krishna is completely ungrateful and has no love at all. That's what she's saying. This is called Sanjalpa. So that's like it's come to that. Now from the next 5, she starts to soften her mood of anger at Krishna. And the final one, out of honest sincerity, her lover inquires about Krishna with gravity, humility, unsteadiness, and unique eagerness. It's like a whole pastime. This Brahmara Gita, just these expressions themselves, there's 10 of them. You should all read them. They're most, enlivening. It takes us into another consciousness of what are the moods of the gopis, what are the moods of Sri Radhika. She's hurt, like I said, because Krishna's gone away. Not only gone away, but they're convinced that he's enjoying with all the Mathuravasis, all the ladies in Mathura. All of these emotions are mixed with her feelings. So it's an extraordinary revelation of Sri Radhika's heart. It's practically the highest expression of love of her heart, but it's twisting. It's like not saying, "Oh, I love you" or anything like. It's going the opposite way. Why have you been so unkind to us and gone away? It needs to be properly studied and meditated upon. But this last one, Sujalpa, is when she comes out of this direct anger and starts to have a more humble mood towards the bumblebee. But you can read this for yourself. In the 46th chapter, Uddhav comes to Braj. But in the 47th chapter, he goes to Uddhavkeri and he visits the gopis there. My Gurudev once described how Uddhav, he comes to Nandagaon, stays with Nanda Baba for the night. In the morning, he goes to wash his face in one kund called Krishna Kund. And he looks up and he sees the whole forest of huge kadamba trees stretching out. This is 5,000 years ago. These trees were massive. And he sees right deep into the forest, and he sees there's illumination in the forest. There's a light there. And he realizes, oh, this is the gopis. The gopis are there. Then he goes to see them. And this whole extraordinary conversation between Radhika and the bumblebee take place, which is, it's a whole, like, couple of classes by itself, but you can go into it, and I hope there's some inspiration there. But my Gurudev is referencing this in Damodarastakam. He's pulling us into this place from we're talking about Krishna being bound by Mother Yashoda, and yet my Gurudev has included the extremity of love that Radhika has for Krishna, because it's all about these loving moods, these moods of affection. This is what rasa is really about. So, we'll do one more verse. What becomes of such a miserable, homeless person? In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.240, it is described.
Evam vrata swapriyanama kirtya jatanurago dhruta chitta uchchaihi asatyado rodati rautigaya chunmadavan rucchati lokabahyaha.
Saintly people who have firmly devoted themselves to serving Sri Bhagavan with deep love, constantly engage in kirtan of the names of Lord Krishna, of Sri Krishna, they most love. With deep attachment, when deep attachment, anurag, arises in them, their hearts thoroughly melt and they become mad in love of God. They laugh and cry loudly. Agitated by love, they sing about their Lord in sweet voices, and just like madmen, without a trace of shyness, they dance and sing, unaffected by the opinions of ordinary people. Doesn't this remind you of the Sankirtan movement? When we go down the streets, we're singing and dancing, smiling, happy, chanting. It's like, generally people don't just dance and sing in the streets, but the Hare Krishnas do, unabashed, not afraid, not shy. We do like that. So we are also, showing that mood of fearlessness to society, because society has nothing of value. What is the value unless it's focusing on glorification of Krishna and Radha and the holy places? It has no value. No value at all. It's designed to captivate the weak mind, to try and exploit the material energy. It's all designed that way. Maya Devi, the illusory world. We have to be awake to that. So I won't go on now. I'll stop here. So, but it just becomes more and more beautiful. But I would encourage you all to please examine this Brahma. Do we have all these typed out already? You can do this tomorrow then. You can type out these 10 jalpas and we can post it for you. And you can follow it through carefully. It's a very special meditation. It's a very high meditation, but why not? We're in Radha-kunda, it's Kartik. We're allowed. So it's okay, we have no prohibition today. So thank you all. Shri Damodarastakam ki jai. Brahmara Geet ki jai. Shrimati Radharani ki jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Krishna's the culprit. We're not happy with Krishna today, but we're happy with Radhika. We're seeing Radhika's separation mood. Hearing all these leelas actually in Vrindavan during Kartik and having the fortune to actually be in those places is extraordinary. Narada Muni, he has given the benediction that if you're in those places hearing these pastimes during the month of Kartik, spoken by a realized soul, a Mahabhagavat, these pastimes will naturally flourish in your heart during this month of Kartik. He's given a benediction that will happen. So we used to hear that, and then we used to go with my Gurudev for many, many years to all these different places. But it's very wonderful to remember those places. So if you're sitting at home in the Western world, whatever, and you can remember Varshana today, then it's your great fortune to remember the pastimes in Varshana. So many pastimes, flooded with pastimes. Krishna would come from Nandagan, and sometimes when Radharani would come home from Javat, she would come traditionally. Sridham, her brother, would bring her on a bullock cart. He'd always get there late in Javat. Radharani would be unhappy that he'd come so late, and then bring him for the swing festival. And then Radharani would perform that Julan Yatra in Varshana with all her Sakhis and friends. And Krishna would always come, somehow or other. We have to, Radha and Krishna are one. Just like heat and fire, you can't separate them. Where is there fire without heat? Is there such a thing? So is there such a thing as Krishna without Radha? Cannot be. So this is always connecting. So Radharani is there. And just 7 miles or 7 kilometers is Nandagan from there. And and the town in the middle is Sanket, where they would have signals with mirrors or with smoke signals, flags, to indicate their movements with each other. So these are all littered with sweet pastimes and leelas all around this area. It's a very beautiful place to wander in any time of the year, but in Kartik in particular, it's most exceptional. Okay, so now we come to our Damodarastakam. And yesterday, we were discussing, because my Gurudev brought it up, the Brahmara Geet, which is one of the most sweet, heart-rendering geets. 5 geets. There's Venu Geet, Pranaya Geet, Gopi Geet, Yugal Geet, and Brahmara Geet. The geets are all moods of separation moods. But the Brahmara Geet is the most extreme separation because they're there for 100 years. In the pastime with the bumblebee coming, and Srimati Radhika chastising this bumblebee. And there's 10 verses there that describe the different types of jalpa. Chitra jalpa, jalpa, ajalpa, sujalpa, abhijalpa, ajalpa, parijalpa, all the different jalpas that are described. And I touched on it just a little bit yesterday. But you yourselves, we're going to post we've actually prepared it today. We haven't quite finished it though. But we'll send just those 10 verses, and you can look online at those 10 verses and appreciate this Uddhav Kyari Brahmara Geet mood of Sri Radhika. So now on page 113 we've come to, and I'll just read the paragraph, the translation of the verse where we reached which was from page 112. So, saintly people, this is the translation of Evam Vrata Swapriya Nam Kirtya. Saintly people who have firmly devoted themselves to serving Sri Bhagavan with deep love, constantly engage in kirtan of the names of Sri Krishna they most love. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. All these different kirtans of your particular flavored Krishna and the pastimes are there. When deep attachment, anurag, arises in them, their hearts thoroughly melt and they become mad in love of God. When the heart thoroughly melts, there's no consideration of the material world. Material world is material. It's static. There's nothing really, it's like two-dimensional practically. But we give it so much importance because the rest of the society is giving it importance. So we just become like little mice and we follow along whatever the government says, and we bow our heads, yes, 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 and we hook in, we connect in with this material wheel, this cycle. And it's so boring. But once we realize the temporary nature of that illusory wheel, we can begin to extract ourselves from it and just become like mendicants. But there's not going to be like some special facility for us when we do that. The facility will be in the core of the heart of actually satisfaction and happiness in serving Radha and Krishna. But externally, as is described in the verse, the previous verse I think it was, they become like beggars wandering through the forests of Braj, like birds without shelter. Yes, that's what actually happens. There isn't any facility, because actually at that stage you don't want any facility. You don't need any facility. You have Krishna. If Krishna is bubbling in the heart, what else do you need? It's everything. With deep attachment, anurag arises in them. Their hearts thoroughly melt and they become mad in love of God. They laugh and cry loudly. Agitated by love, they sing about their Lord in sweet voices. And just like madmen, without any trace of shyness, they dance and sing unaffected by the opinions of ordinary people. And we describe just like a, what do you call it, prototype of that as a Sankirtan party, just dancing down the streets of the biggest capitals in the world, just wearing bits of cloth and chanting loudly, banging on cymbals and drums, and very happily, ecstatically chanting the holy names of the Lord. I mean, it's just an amazing movement that Mahaprabhu has manifested, that should be our traditional activity, is this Sankirtan, particularly in the streets, to, even if they don't understand it, the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra is going to penetrate something in the heart that they don't even know about. And maybe straight away or after some months or years, something will act, or even in the next life, something will take place because they've actually heard the sound vibration of the holy name. So there's nothing more fortunate for the jiva than to hear that sound of the holy name. This is why the devotees, they sacrifice their whole lives. I know in New York, they go every single day, regardless. They have different temples in New York, and they constant, and London, and Rome, Paris, Toronto, everywhere. They're always just going on this Harinam Sankirtan. So this is the most wonderful activity. This is what Mahaprabhu has inaugurated for the general mass. And once you've chanted Hare Krishna for some time, then your consciousness starts to inquire, what is this Hare Krishna? Why am I feeling so ecstasy? Oh, it's empowered by Srimati Radhika. Oh, who is she? Oh, she lives in Varshana. And then you start hearing all the different, and then gradually the heart starts to, it's a process. Even Krishna's flute, a dry piece of bamboo, drives the three worlds mad when it is touched by the powerful nectar of Sri Krishna's lips. It even drives the inanimate objects mad. Mountains will melt. The rivers will begin to flow in the other way, or even freeze, they even go solid. It's described sometimes the swans in the Jamuna, when they hear the sound of Krishna's flute, the Jamuna freezes. It just goes hard instead of its nature of being soft. And the duck's feet, they stick inside the river. They have to, try to get themselves out and so on. But the flute affects everything. The flute sound is the first sound vibration that manifested in the core of Lord Brahma's heart, which, when we look at the different elements, from earth, water, fire, ether, sound is the first element. It's the most subtle element, is sound vibration. And the original sound vibration is Krishna's flute, embodied in the Kam Bij mantra that we say. This is the embodiment of Krishna's flute sound. Have you heard Krishna's flute? I pray to hear Krishna's flute. I never heard his flute. Have you heard his flute? You've heard his flute? Maybe Jai has heard his flute, because he's living here all the time in Radha-kunda. But we pray to hear.
A few days before, when Bengali group came here,
Yes, I was listening. Yeah, I was listening. But that's not the same as Krishna's flute. Krishna's flute is something extraordinary. As soon as he plays that flute, everything transforms. Yes. And when the gopis steal Krishna's flute, Krishna becomes really miserable. It's wonderful. But the gopis are envious of the flute. Why is the flute taking all the nectar of Krishna's bimba like lips and drinking it when it's our property? This is called arishya. This is like transcendental envy. We hear this in Venugit. They become angry with the flute. Even Shri Krishna's flute, a dry piece of bamboo, drives the three worlds mad when it's touched by the powerful nectar of Krishna's lips. However, the gopis regard the flute with spite. Spite means with anger, jealousy, as if it were their co-wife. Why is the flute? It's a male, and drinking all this nectar. This nectar should only be for the females, the gopis, for us.
Gopya kimacharadayam kushalam smavenu Damodaradhara sudhamapi gopikanam bhunktve swayam yadavasistharasam hradinyo hrashvatvacho shrumumuchustharavo yadharyaha.
Nice. So that's from the Venugit, what we've just described, 21 chapter, verse 9. Oh dear Sakis, we cannot imagine what sort of sadhan and bhajan the flute must have performed in previous births, that in our very presence it is drinking the nectar of Damodar's lips, which rightfully belong to us alone. It is not even sparing a drop of that rasa for us. On the pretext of their blossoming lotus flowers, the rivers which are nourished by the flute with their water, rasa, are exhibiting symptoms of ecstatic haripulation. The trees, who are the forefathers of the flute, are equal to the best of men. Seeing their descendant filled with such intense love for the Lord, they have become overjoyed, and tears of ecstasy are flowing from their eyes. This is the vision when one understands the reality of this Vishuddha Sattva, the real reality of this world, not this Mayic, hologram, reflection, this Mayic reflection that we are so happy in. Because if we weren't happy in it, we'd get out of it. But obviously we are happy and very attached to it, so we stay in it. But when that becomes uncomfortable enough, then our inquiry seriously into that other dimension begins. The strength to attain these exalted feelings will enter our hearts by reciting the prayers of the exalted acharyas in our Guru Varga, headed by Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath. Yes, by always chanting these prayers, like Damodarastakam, for example. So many prayers. Raghunath Das Goswami has composed so many prayers in the Stavavali. There are so many prayers there and Rupa Goswami in his Stavavali, in his Padyavali, so many incredible prayers. And if we regularly recite these prayers, hear the music of those prayers, even just reciting those prayers, there's music within them. There's so much beauty, and what the images that they're actually giving to us is so enlivening for the heart. Headed by Sri Rupa and Raghunath, then step by step we will make progress on the path of bhakti. In Sri Radhika Padapadma Vignapati, Sri Rupa Goswami prays, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavakayate Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. O Radha, all glories to you, all glories to you, the most beloved of Madhav. You are the most celebrated among all the young damsels of Gokul. Damodarastakam Verse, Harinishkuta Brinda Vipineshe. The beautiful way you dress causes Sri Damodar's attachment to you to swell. You are the presiding goddess of Sri Hari's pleasure groves in the forest of Vrindavan. Krishna is that supreme Lord. He's that independent Lord. He's the potency, the Shaktiman. And Sri Radhika is the energy coming from Krishna. And that energy has completely covered the energetic aspect of Krishna himself. So, like the sun is surrounded by the sunshine. It's the sunshine that is affecting everybody. So the sunshine is like the Shakti manifesting from the sun. But the sunshine actually is controlling, ultimately, in rasa vichar. When we consider from the point of view of rasa, then this Shakti is controlling Krishna. Rishabhanudadi Navashashileke Lalita Saki Gunaramita Vishake. From the milk ocean of Sri Rishabhanu Maharaj's affection, you have arisen like a beautiful young moon. O dear friend of Lalita, by your qualities of playfulness and friendship, you have enchanted the heart of your intimate Saki, Vishaka. Vishaka was born at exactly the same moment as Sri Radhika. So, the friendship described by Rupa Goswami, particularly in Vidagdha Madhav, between these Sakis is extraordinary. Radharani can't meet Krishna without the intervention of the Sakis. And the Sakas, the Priyanam Sakas, Madhu Mangal, Subal, etc. All of these support the whole Leela. Without them, the Leelas can't actually transpire. They have to have this support there. And it just creates such a festive mood, always. In Vrindavan, it's full of intrigue. Because it's Parakya Ras. If it wasn't Parakya Ras, how would there be intrigue? If it was Swakya, oh Krishna, did you take out the rubbish today? Oh Krishna, this, like in a household situation. That's what like in Dwarka, it's a different mood completely when it's Swakya. But Parakya is filled with stimulating, exciting pastimes. Plus, of course, Chandravali is there in the whole mix. Jyotila is there. Essential personalities. Karanum karumayi karanum barite sanaka sanatana vanite charite. You are so full of mercy that great yogis and brahmacharis like Sri Sanat Kumara and Sanatan Kumara are always engaged in describing your exalted nature. So please be merciful to me. Like these great brahmacharis are describing the beauties and speciality of Sri Radhika. They're celibate practitioners, totally celibate, but they are fascinated by Radhika's glories and her speciality. And of course, Sachinandan Gaurahari, he takes that mood and complexion of Sri Radhika. Radha Krishna Pranaya, no, Sri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kid. No, that's not. Shri Radha Krishna Pranaya. Shri Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritya Hladini Shakti Asmad Ekatmanav. They are one. They have become one, Radha and Krishna. Adevika Kubaragad Gadaya Dyavacha Yacha Nipatya Bhuvidandavad Vipu Aparti Asya Prasadam Abudasya Janasya Kritve Gandharvike Nijagana Gananam Videhi. This is from the Gandharvika, some part of Astakam. O Devi Gandharvika, I am suffering greatly. I have fallen at your feet, and I'm lying on the ground in front of you just like a stick. With a choked voice, I am begging you, please be merciful to this fool and count me as one of your own. So there are so many prayers beseeching Sri Radhika to accept us as one of her own. So many prayers. So many prayers are there for us to remember the speciality of Sri Radhika's beauty. As we sing these verses, we should meditate on our Guru Varga and consider it is you who are actually submitting these prayers. It is you who are singing them. Without your mercy, I will never be qualified to make such prayers. It is only by their mercy that we can follow in their footsteps and pray like this, and thus gradually attain loving service to the divine couple of Braj. So it's a process. What is sadhan bhajan? We have to know that process. And my Gurudev is sharing this aspect of our sadhan bhajan to constantly have these prayers around us and be reciting them, remembering them. And then when we go like today for a parikrama of Radha-kunda, knowing these prayers to chant to all the different personalities. And gradually remembering all these prayers, and especially the personalities, the murtis, they understand the language of Sanskrit. So when we chant these prayers, they will appreciate that mood. They will appreciate that honor that we're offering them. So we should try to understand these mantras. My Gurudev used to say all the time that mantra is the most powerful sound vibration, is mantra. Like we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and we see directly how it transforms the consciousness every morning. Every morning when we're doing our puja, we chant so many mantras to please and satisfy the Lord. So these mantras are very important for us. We say our Gayatri mantras. These are very important also, very purifying for the soul. There are two modes of meditation, Mantramayi Upasana and Swarasiki Upasana. Upasana means worship. So mantra is a single pastime. Swarasiki is many pastimes. When one deliberately concentrates on remembering only one particular pastime while performing bhajan, it is called Mantramayi Upasana. But when Sri Bhagavan's pastimes manifest in one's heart spontaneously, one after another, it is called Swarasiki Upasana. When we read the beautiful descriptions of Vilap Kusumanjali, for example, by my Gurudev, he non-stop just speaks pastime after pastime after pastime. It doesn't stop. It just gets into a flow, and it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other, just flowing. And he shares that with us to show that heart filled with remembrance of those pastimes and just flowing out. And there are many very rasik preachers who also just share with the conditioned souls that mood of a flow tumbling from their hearts of all these different incredible pastimes, one after just non-stop. When performing bhajan in Braj, only Swarasiki Upasana is present. In Braj, wherever the sadhak goes, he has spurtis, momentary visions of Sri Krishna's eternally new pastimes. They're always here. If we're purifying our consciousnesses sufficiently, we will become aware of these pastimes. If we're thinking of these pastimes, then Krishna eventually will give us the vision to see and witness these pastimes. This is the purpose to live in Braj. This is why all the indications, Tishtem Braje Tanuragi Janugami, this is the essence of all advice, is to live in Vrindavan, to witness, to remember all these pastimes. And then we will have, even in Goradam, we see in Jaivadama how Vijay Kumar he has, and Brajanath also, that Sannyasi Thakur, when he first comes, I think in the 2nd or 3rd chapter, and he sees the whole of Mayapur manifest there, and he sees all the personalities worshipping Gaurachandra, and he sees the Vaishnavas. So it's this Mayapur and Goradam and Brajadam are the same. So all these pastimes are there. Beholding new spirities everywhere he looks, he exclaims, "O Sri Krishna, perform this pastime here." But then beholds another spirity, and he performs that pastime over there. In an unbroken chain, Sri Krishna's pastimes are stirred up in his heart. Swarasiki Upasana is called Raga-nuga, or Loba-moy Bhakti, Bhakti imbued with intense hankering. All our Guru Varga are immersed solely in this mode of meditation. These are wonderful instructions and guidelines for bhajan that my Gurudev is sharing here. This is the purpose of our practice, is to try to connect with this inner bhajan. We can do this if we do it regularly. It's the regulation. It's every single day. Ahoitiki apratihata, without interruption. Daily, we want to be immersed. Whatever our situations are, at least 1 or 2 hours in the morning is best to have an opportunity to enter into this flavor of Braj. That means we have to organize our time sufficiently. If we have to go to work, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock something, then we have to get up earlier to give us that break of a couple of hours. If it's less than a couple of hours, it's going to be difficult. And how do we get up early? We go to bed early. I've said this many times. If you try to take rest early, because you have to get your proper rest. If you don't get your rest, it's not going to be so healthy for you. So try to manage your lives and your diet also. If you eat a huge meal at night, how are you going to get up in the morning? You'll be digesting, actually your digestion will stop at night. So the first thing when you wake up in the morning, your digestion will begin again. That won't be necessarily healthy for a sadhak. All these things we have to consider if you want bhajan, if you want to actually enter this world. Sri Satyavrat Muni prayed, Alam Laksha Labai. Millions of other attainments are of no use to me. While his prayer, until this point, has reflected the mood of someone absorbed in Vatsalya Ras, we should not mistake these words to mean that he rejects the attainment of something higher than Vatsalya Prem. Fortunately, however, if one obtains the association of one of Srimati Radhika's companions, her mood will enter his heart and cause him to implore Sri Krishna, "O Sri Krishna, if you are pleased with me and if you want to give me something," and then he will submit this prayer.
Shyama Sundara Shikandi Shekhara Smerahasa Murali Manohara Radhika Rasika Mam Kripanidhe Sapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru.
Kinkarim again. This
Kinkarim
kinkari.
Kuru, yeah.
This kinkari. What can I do? What can I do? This is kinkari. It's like a manjari mood. So this is Vitalacharya. O Shama Sundar, O beautiful dark boy with a peacock feather crown, you playfully smile and your flute completely bewilders our mind. You are expert at tasting the nectar of Srimati Radhika's love, and you are an ocean of mercy. Please make me a maidservant of your beloved lotus feet. Kinkarim is Kinkarim Karu, maidservant. When Sri Krishna is truly satisfied, he considers it his own success to bestow this benediction upon the sadhaks and sadhakas. This is how the process of Rupanuga Bhajan gradually unfolds. We pray that the fruit of our bhajan will be that he gives us this topmost benediction. This commentary is divine. It's very beautiful how my Gurudev is carrying us through. Sri Damodarastakam ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Premanandi, Hari Bol, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavaya.